Let's discuss this growing AI power demand with our next guest, who has more than 20 years of experience in nuclear engineering and energy policy. Sama Bilbao y León is Director General of the World Nuclear Association, which promotes atomic power and supports companies in the global industry. Good to have you with us, Sama. I mean, is nuclear then the answer to powering AI data centers? Is that the sense that's coming out today?
Well, certainly technology companies are looking at 24/7 electricity that is carbon-free. So they don't have too many choices. Nuclear energy is definitely one of them. But as you know, there is no single bullet that makes all the solutions. But let me just say, it's not just data centers. The heavy industry is also looking at nuclear energy to provide not just electricity, but also heat, process heat for metallurgical or petrochemical or chemical facilities.
How receptive are governments to the idea of nuclear energy? I mean, bearing in mind what we've seen in Fukushima, for instance, that's still fresh in people's minds.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have seen an enormous change in the perception of nuclear by the public, but very importantly, governments. Governments, when they are looking at meeting Paris Agreement goals in a manner that is timely, cost-effective, and definitely equitable, they are reconsidering nuclear. They are looking at the existing fleet as essential, something that we need to extend their life as much as possible, but also we are looking at new nuclear. We really need to keep up with the growing demand for energy.
So governments are for it?
Yes.
Companies like Google are for it. So are we expecting more such deals, like the deal signed by Google, you think? What sense?
Yeah. No, we are seeing, I mean, in the US, well, you mentioned the Google with Google and NextEra, but Microsoft and Constellation had a similar deal. And then we have deals with Google, with Kairos Power, with I think it's Meta, Amazon together with X-Energy. So there are many of these deals that are looking at nuclear energy and AI and technology. But as I said, X-Energy also has a deal with Dow Chemical. So it is much more than the AI companies.
But the thing is, we're hearing U.S. companies more into it. I'm just wondering if that is being, I guess, replicated here in Asia. Are Asian companies also doing the same, expected to do the same?
No, we are seeing similar partnerships being everywhere else. So in Japan, we have seen technology companies, data centers looking at getting co-located with the nuclear power plants. In Southeast Asia, many countries are looking at, hosting a lot of data centers and technology companies, and for that, they do need 24/7, hopefully carbon-free electricity.
You talked about earlier that there's no silver bullet. So it is not just nuclear energy that's going to, solve everybody's power problem.
No.
If you take a look at the contribution of nuclear, realistically, by 2030, how much of that power can nuclear provide?
Well, today nuclear energy provides 10% of global electricity, and what we are trying to do right now is to maintain that 10% of global electricity moving forward. Obviously, this is different in different countries, right? So France has more than 75% of their electricity coming from nuclear, or Czech Republic have 50% and things like that. So again, as we said, it's not silver bullet. Some countries will have huge percentage of their energy coming from nuclear, and some countries will have none. Well, they will have to decide what is their perfect energy mix.
So some countries will have none. That includes the likes of Germany, which has a moratorium.
Well, I don't know that they have a moratorium. They decided to shut down their nuclear power plants, and I think that the current policy is like they are becoming. They have questioned whether that was a very good decision. But if you look at most other countries in Europe, they are number one, extending their life of their current units for as long as feasible, and we are seeing many new nuclear projects in Europe: Sweden, Finland, France, the Netherlands, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Romania, Poland is a newcomer country, Bulgaria. All these countries have new nuclear power plants in addition to their existing power plants.
How do we ensure safety? When we talk about the insatiable appetite for power, for data centers, it includes both domestic, developed and developing economies.
Absolutely.
How do we ensure safety, especially in developing economies, to ensure that, the standards are observed? How do we look at it?
The nuclear industry, we have a very good track record, a historical, very good track record. We have very good standards, and as a community, we work very closely together to learn from each other, to make sure that we always are taking and adopting the best practices and the lessons learned. And this applies for existing countries and newcomer countries. And frankly, the way I look at this is not whether the countries are developing or developed, is whether they are newcomers or not. And we are seeing that the global nuclear industry kind of pulls together to help these countries. We saw this in the United Arab Emirates. As you know, there are newcomer countries that they just joined the nuclear industry in the last 10 years. Or Bangladesh. Bangladesh will start their first nuclear power plant before the end of this year. So the entire global industry has worked together with them to ensure that they are ready for this.
In Asia, who is setting the pace when it comes to nuclear energy adoption? Is it China?
Well, China is definitely setting the pace, not just in Asia, I would say at a global level. As you know, China is building currently over 20 reactors of different technologies. It's large, small, advanced reactors. So China is definitely moving ahead very quickly. I would say that South Korea is also a growing power. They are building nuclear power plants in the country, but they are also contributing to projects elsewhere in the world, in Czech Republic, in the UAE. And frankly, Japan obviously has a long history of being a very good nuclear operator, as well as India. As you know, India has existing very good indigenous nuclear industry, and they are looking to actually grow in that capacity very quickly.
What is it that China is doing that's allowing it to lead the pace?
It's very easy. When you do something and you do it over and over and over and over and over again, you become very good at it. And this is what China has been doing for the last 20 years. They have adopted the technology. They are standardized their supply chains. They have their workforce. Their entire industrial infrastructure is set so they can replicate. It's not one project. It's a program. It's a fleet. And this is basically what we are trying to redo everywhere else in the world, right? So for perhaps perhaps decades, we haven't really built too many nuclear power plants in many other parts of the world. So what we are trying to do is create or recreate these capabilities to be able to move to programs, not individual projects.
So what's the call to action? What do governments in Asia in particular have to do to ensure that, they have this nuclear energy they need to power their countries?
Well, I think that Asia, in particular Southeast Asia, we are in a fabulous position to actually grow nuclear energy very effectively, because in many Southeast Asian countries, we have some expertise with research reactors and use of nuclear energy or nuclear medical applications. So it's a matter of expanding that infrastructure into regulatory infrastructure to actually use all the industrial capabilities that do exist in the zone into nuclear specific industrial capabilities. And then, of course, partner with the experts, whether it is US or China or Korea or many other potential players.
Sama, quite an area to be looking into, a growing area, this appetite for energy. Sama, thank you so much for that. Sama Bilbao y León of the World Nuclear Association.